This is Johnny with TigerBomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC Fight Night Song versus Simon, giving you my thoughts and predictions on the entire card. This is taking place at the UFC Apex, and we've got 12 bouts. In order, we'll go from top to bottom, giving my thoughts and predictions on all of them. Before I do that, I do want to go over the Pavlovich versus Blaydes fight. But before that, I do have a special guest that I invited onto the show. Since my buddy Jose isn't available for the time being, I have been asking people to kind of join me to talk the fights a little bit and just get a different perspective. So I'm going to bring him in right now, and we'll get to know him a little bit. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Dog Hunter, nice, nice. So, my man, we went back and forth via email, and I asked you to jump on the show. So, I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about these fights. So, if you wouldn't mind, just let the people know who you are, all your avenues where they can find you, and just tell us about yourself and what got you into the journey of watching MMA. Oh, dude, no, no. What are you doing? No, this is a family show. Jesus, I'm cutting you off. Oh, disgusting. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus, man. I got to do a better job of profiling these guys. I'm so sorry. That is not cool. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh man, what a pervert. But let's move on from that unpleasantness. Jesus, let's talk about Pavlovich and Blaydes. What a crazy, crazy card. Um, Pretty damn good night for myself, if I say so myself. The entire card was actually pretty decent. There were a couple fights that were pretty garbage, but overall, my bets and predictions were pretty solid. Like even the guys that I got wrong ended up cashing me some money, except for one in particular. But let's get started with the first fight. We've got Brady Heastan defeats Dana Batgirl via punches, and I honestly feel really, really happy that my general perception of Brady Heastan was correct. Like the guy kind of proved that he is a bit of a dog. He's not the best defensively, obviously, and I'll give him a little bit of credit. He did get cracked. He got dropped in the second round, but that was mostly because his nose got busted. Like he got hit right in the nose. As a guy who has a pretty big nose myself, I understand I would drop as well. But he seemed pretty solid. He even won the third round, regardless of what happened in that particular stoppage. Like he was winning that round on the feet. He looked pretty solid with that head kick. And it kind of proved me right that Dana kind of is just that one dimensional headhunter. And although I had money on Brady, I don't necessarily love the stoppage, but I went back and rewatched it. The dude got hit with like maybe 40 plus punches. And if you're not moving your damn head, it is what it is, man. Like it's more to me Dana that didn't kind of gave up. Next bout, William Gomis defeats Francis Marshall via split decision. I actually put a live bet on William Gomis because I had a feeling that, well, not only that, he was plus 165 live after he won the first round. I'm like, this is a steal. I had an actual pre-fight bet on him to win by finish or no decision. How's it go? Uh, Inside the distance, or if it goes to scorecards, I get my money back. Well, he didn't finish him, but he cashed me out. He gave me a bit of a scare. It kind of proved that sometimes being big and athletic and black is just enough, and he proved it. And Francis Marshall, he just kind of chased him. He didn't do much. They'll both come back better for sure. William Gomis, I think he still needs more preparation, more timing. And Francis Marshall kind of proved that he has the skills. He just needs to be a little bit more mature. I took Usman to beat Junior Tafa plus money. I waited until he was plus money. I don't want to talk about that. It was god awful. There's talks about Tafa winning that fight via the judges' scorecards at 29-28. I can see it. I wouldn't have a problem with it because damage overall. But at a certain point, if you get taken down and you're not doing anything off of your back, it's really difficult to give the round back to the guy who got the damage because it's pretty pathetic. Like it's really bad. Like, oh, the guy hit him a few times, but he spent the majority of the round on his back like a little bitch. I cannot, in good conscience, give him that round. So it is what it is. Norma Dumont defeats Erosa by decision. She clearly won that 29-28. BBP, Big Booty Power, wins again. Erosa, she looked a little slow at 145, and I kept telling people like that is Dumont's weight class. So now she found out. Montel Jackson defeats Hani Yaya. I'm glad to know that Montel didn't fuck around. He just got to business. He just waited for the right 1-2 down the pipe, cracked him, and he finished him pretty bad. So I'm glad anyone who took him inside the distance or first round, cash your money out. The one fight where I was like, ooh, I didn't see this coming. Giagos knocking out Ricky Glenn. I knew Giagos was pretty good in the first round, but I had no inkling in my mind that he would knock out Ricky Glenn. Granted, he hit him perfectly on the temple. What can you really say? Like, some people were saying it's an early stoppage. I had money on Glenn at like plus 220 to win via inside the distance. And I'm always honest with people. Like, if I can't justify saying like it was an early stoppage, I'm not going to bitch about it. Like, when you face plant and you do the chicken dance like that, it is what it is, man. Like, Ricky Glenn didn't see it coming. So this is like probably the only actual bet that I felt like I lost. I'm like, oh, that ain't good. Jeremiah Wells defeats Matthew Semelsberger via split decision. And this is another controversial decision itself. Wells got 230-27s and Matthew got the 129-28. And I get both arguments. The 30-27 is a little bit suspicious to me. Like, he got hurt in the first round pretty bad. I would assume that would have to go to Semelsberger for causing that damage. But it always comes down to, like, when there's a big debate about what's more important, control time or damage, you have to have the damage, and then you have to maintain that damage for a certain level of time. And then whatever comes back at you can't be visually impressive enough to then sway the judges to give the other person the round. And I think that's kind of what happened. Like, I would have given it 29-28 Wells based off of the second round. He kind of got hurt, but it wasn't as significant as the first round. And Semelsberger winning, it is what it is. Like, it is what it is. The scorecards themselves, the 30-27, I don't agree with. It's just more so it kind of raises more questions about how you judge fights. And to me, the way I've always judged these fights is that, like, I've seen a fight where a guy is clearly beating the crap out of one dude. And this is in the amateurs, by the way. And he's not destroying him, but he's got position on him. He's blasting the body. He's got him kind of in a turtle position, hitting him. And then, like, a minute to go, the guy who's doing the beating gets full mounted and he gets hit a little bit, but nothing too significant. Now, some might argue the one guy that got mounted, he was in a worse position. He was on his way to lose, but it is kind of like a little too late. Like, if, say, that were to happen in the first round and then the reverse happened, the other guy got back up, kind of beat him up for the remainder of the round, you got to give it to the guy who had the not only control time, because control time to me ain't shit unless you have damage. And I think in this case, Jeremiah Wells did enough to sway the judges. So I'm not angry about it, but I did take Wells at plus money. So I'm happy about that. Yasmin Lucindu, she did everything perfectly. It's just she kind of restricted herself a little bit. I think she could have done a little bit more. I was praying, like, take her down, because I had her by sub. I'm like, I took a little shot on her by sub. And I think if she would have gotten it to the ground, she would have been like, oh, arm triangle here, guillotine there. Like, she would have gotten something on Brogan. And Brogan looked, honestly, worse. Really bad. She didn't look anything at all as a threat. I'm like, she might pose a threat. No threat at all. Lucindo, she needs to definitely get a little bit better. Although she had a very impressive performance in this fight and the previous fight, I think next time she's like at plus 400 range, depending on the opponent, let's just kind of hold off on her. This time she was a good parlay piece, but overall I was impressed, but I was expecting a little bit more. I was expecting more intelligence from her. She was just kind of wanting that knockout when I do believe she could have gotten the submission. That is what it is. Bobby Green and Jared Gordon go to a clash of heads, no contest. I had Bobby Green inside the distance, so when that happened, I was like, I didn't see nothing, boys. I win. And I'm all hyped and shit. I'm like, finally, like my portfolio is looking good. Like, I'm actually picking winners. And then it got turned into a no contest, which, although I was kind of pissed at the time, it is the right decision. Like, 100%. Like, I've been in the opposite end of that, so I'm not going to like, oh, they robbed me. It just, you lose that hype of winning that money. But in the end, it is the right decision. Like, it was a bad headbutt, and Bobby Green wasn't happy about it. And if they do run it back, I feel even more confident about picking Bobby Green inside the distance. Like, that was a pretty bad knockout, despite it being like an illegal clash of heads or a headbutt. It is what it is, though. Like, Jared Gordon actually looked pretty solid. He was countering Bobby Green decently, so it gave me a bit of a scare. But overall, the thing that I took away from that fight is that Paul Felder kind of pissed me off. Like, I get that's your boy, but like, I do kind of believe that it was the opposite end, it would have been Jared Gordon headbutting Bobby Green. He would have been like, "What a beautiful performance for my boy!" Like Jared Gordon, he was just a little too animated for me. It rubbed me the wrong way. I get it, but it was like Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva, my boys and gals. I had officially 2 units on Bruno Silva. At the end of the day, I had more than that, like significantly more than that. And I was so worried because he wasn't looking good, but I'm like, he looks physically well. And then I'm like, oh, he's getting into a brawl with Tavares. Tavares is attacking the body well. And then eventually it's like he took care of business. I was like, I had a very good night. I really had a good night last night. And not necessarily about the money. It just feels as if things are coming together for me because I'm looking at shit differently and I'm making right reads. And like that means more to me than, yeah, I love the money, but I actually have to get my car fixed. So go straight into that. But it's like the reads that I'm getting, I feel like, damn, it's finally coming together, my boys. And then Pavlovich defeats Curtis Blaydes. Funny about this, like, I have to tell the story. Like, I feel as if I was unstoppable last night because I had a parlay with Blaydes and that was the last leg. And I kind of felt like, you know what? Let's not fuck with this. Let's cash out, reinvested in the under 1.5 because I already had a Sergey Pavlovich round number 1 meme bet. Like, fuck it, put a unit on round number 1 for Pavlovich. If it happens, it happens. If not, I fully expect Blaydes is going to take him down either late round number 1 or round number 2 and fuck him up. Blaydes proved me absolutely right about him. Like for many either years or months. I don't know how long it's been since the Dawkins fight. I felt so fucking stupid because I'm like, I think because Blaydes likes to mess around on the feet too much, I think Dawkins can catch him. He's pretty quick. He just has to do it quickly, and then he can hurt him and finish him. He ended up getting knocked out, and I felt like a moron. And I felt like that read might not have been accurate. Like maybe I was wrong, and it kind of made me doubt, maybe do some stupid shit because like I needed to reevaluate the way I saw these fights. Pavlovich knocking him out in the first round with Blaydes not going for any takedowns, it just like made me feel like I was born again. I'm like, I was right all along. This guy's an absolute dingbat. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not gonna be one of these guys that shits on Curtis Blaydes legitimately. I will shit on him jokingly. If you want to see some of that bad joking that I did, go check out my Discord. It's pretty bad. But the thing with Blaydes is that he was having some success on the feet, whether if that was Pavlovich allowing that to happen, like he had a really solid jab, good low kicks, but at a certain point, like he got hit, and it's like he just went into like, let's just keep it standing for a little bit. And the takedown that he went for was pretty bad. Pavlovich was able to stuff it pretty easily. And then he did his beauty with that weird little shovel uppercut that he landed on Blaydes, and that was just the spelling of the end. And it really is Blaydes' fault. Like, I want to shit on him more because it's fun and funny, but I think he knows that he made a big mistake, and he has to live knowing that he probably isn't ever going to touch a world championship unless he goes to like Bellator PFL, which he probably will make it to the end of the tournament and then get knocked out by some fatso. So it is what it is. I ended up doing really well, and it just, again, feels like I'm getting things right, but hopefully I can continue that luck and we can get into the card coming up here, which is the Song versus Simon card. And I don't know if I got good reads on this one. I might play it safe because it's interesting, I'll say. There's a couple fights here that I'm like, I don't know, but let's get started with this particular fight. And because we've got a Chinese man fighting, let's change everything to Soviet red here. Okay, looks like I'm in the depths of hell. But let's get started with the first fight of the night, which is at bantamweight. We've got Haley Cowan, all hail Haley Cowan versus Jamie Lynn Horth. And the odds have it pick 'em -110, -110. Undefeated 5-0 Canadian, 33 years old, 5'7", 67-inch reach versus the Texan in Cowan, who is 5'8", 69 and a third-inch reach. And I've been saying it for a while now, like Haley Cowan, it's just annoying having to go back and forth. She hasn't fought in the UFC officially yet, and it's just been issues. Like I faded her against Perez. I thought she was going to beat her ass, and then she pulls out for being sick. I was not sure what to do with the other chick she was going to fight, that Hesbian from Brazil. What was her name? Timaris Vidal. I wasn't sure what to do there because of Vidal. Jamie Lynn Horth, though, I think I'm back in the let's fade Haley Cowan. Not only is she like cutting weight every other week or so, I don't know what that illness was that bumped her off of the Perez fight, which Perez is becoming one of my favorite fighters because of Instagram. Let's just say she just ignore everything from the neck up and just focus on the neck down. But yeah, to give you a perspective, Haley Cowan, my thoughts on her are that she is definitely an athletic girl. She's very attractive. She kicks well. She's tall and lanky. It's just that I don't feel too impressed by what her capabilities are. Like I've seen too many close decisions with her. I've seen her pull a stunt where she gets choked out by like a bum woman, and I just feel as if her cap hasn't been met quite yet. And granted, she can come in here and beat Jamie Lynn. I think she has the capabilities. I think she has the power. I think she has the right enough technique to beat a woman like Jamie Lynn Horth. It's just that after watching tape on Jamie Lynn, and I mean this with all due respect, she fights the way she looks. She's kind of ugly in there. Like I'll just put it to you that way. She isn't ugly in her technique. She makes a fight kind of like her fight. She can bust you up. She's a good kicker herself. She's very long and lanky. Good kicks, as I mentioned. Undefeated. Lots of high kicks. I don't think she's bad at all. I think she's pretty solid. I think she's a much better fighter, and I think she's actually a fighter compared to Haley Cowan. I think Haley Cowan is one of these athletic women that, like, I kept saying it in the past, like, she took a cardio kickboxing class. She felt pretty good doing it, and she's like, I can do this professionally. And as for Jamie Lynn, I feel as if she just wants to fight. And something about her gives me that impression of like she can get busted up and she'll keep moving forward opposed to Haley. And I don't know this yet, but I feel like Haley would be willing to just kind of tap the mat. And I could be wrong, right? She can definitely prove me wrong. I just like more of what I've seen from Jamie Lynn Horth. Like I've seen fights where she gets dropped, she comes back and she beats up these girls, she submits them. Like she's a kickboxer through and through, but I've seen her get on top and beat up girls and submit them. Like really, I've seen her submit jujitsu practitioners. Like it was literally what was it, Myra, whatever. She submitted in the third round, and that's kind of where I see this fight ultimately ending is in the third. I think that Haley's going to have a good round number one. It might be close. Round number two, she might slow down. She tends to do so, and then Jamie Lynn starts picking up the pace, taking her down. Come round number three, I think Haley's going to go for her own takedown because I've seen her train her jujitsu and she might want to like mix things up. And I do believe Jamie's going to reverse, get on top, and pound her out or choke her out. I think the value is on the newcomer. If she gets to be, and I'm hoping plus money, I will be placing a bet on her. I do think she can get the fight to the ground at one point, get the submission, and I just think she's got the better cardio. I think she's just clearly the better fighter right now. But again, as I mentioned prior, Haley is athletic. She's pretty solid, and sometimes that's all you need. Like Jamie Lynn's not the most athletic girl. Her high kicks aren't as impressive as Haley. I just do believe that when the going gets tough, the tougher woman in Horth is going to prevail. So I'll go with Jamie Lynn to win this fight third round submission. All right, next bout we've got Brian Kelleher versus Journey Newsom. The hell, someone's been messing with my fight cards here. It says Whitey Mouse. That's his nickname, right? Like Whitey Mouse because he's a rapper himself, and that shows you how long Brian Kelleher has been here. He went by Whitey Mouse because Mighty Mouse was champion at the time, and he hasn't been champion in a while. But yeah, someone's been messing with this shit. That's motherfuckers. Anyways, Brian Kelleher, boom Kelleher, he is minus 210. Come back on Journey Newsom plus 175. So the odds automatically, I'm leaning the favor of Newsom. I understand Newsom is kind of hot and cold sometimes, but I'm dictating this and I'm basing this strictly off of their last performances. Kelleher, I kind of felt as if, memory serving correctly, that he didn't look all that impressive. He got finished pretty quickly by kind of up and coming guys like Umar Nurmagomedov. Like it was going to happen, so it's not a big deal. Like I let that slide. And then Mario Batista's like on a tear right now. He's on a different level, and he wants to prove everybody that he's like the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner in the UFC because he's submitting motherfuckers left and right. So that's like let's go back and rewatch the Batista fight, and he looked pretty solid. Like he still looks like he has pep in his step. But I've always said that Kelleher at 135 is not the same as Kelleher at 145. He has a lot more power at 145, but he's still technically very solid. Journey Newsom, I think he's a perfect example of a decision fighter. He's a decision fighter that can get knockouts. He's got power in his hands. I think he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got a taekwondo background himself. He throws a lot of kicks. Let me read my notes here. Yeah, he says he's a quick little fucker, nice side kicks, light on his feet, always moving laterally. I have to say this. I had a bet on Morozov in his last fight where I was terrified. I didn't know how the judges were going to view that fight. I thought Journey Newsom was winning round number 1 until Morozov took him down repeatedly, kind of held him, beat him up a little bit, just a little tiny bit. But I thought Journey did more on the feet, and I wasn't sure. And same thing kept happening. He was doing really good stuff on the feet, and then Morozov just took him down and kind of beat him up a little bit. And I think that's a really good style to beat Brian Kelleher, frustrate him with the speed. And then when he decides to let the hands go, he's fast. He bam, bam. I feel like he can potentially even hurt Kelleher or consistently keep him away, keep him at his fight, and actually land cleaner punches. And if it gets to the ground, I think Journey's solid enough to get back up or to defend himself. Like Kelleher, nasty guillotine, and that's really all he has when it comes to the major threats on the ground. Like you have to put yourself in the position to get guillotined, and I don't think Journey's going to do that. Like they're not necessarily like a huge difference in height. It's 5'6" for Kelleher and 5'5" for Newsom. Funny enough, Newsom has the longer reach, which I think is going to really help him if he starts blitzing him, just like staying on the outside, throwing those side kicks, and out of nowhere, the 1-2 down the middle. Like he's got power. It's just not like, oh my God, crazy power. I do think that if he lands flush on somebody, full power, he can knock him out. He can definitely knock out Brian. Brian definitely can knock out Journey, but I think Journey can recover. I like Journey Newsom here. I think he can win a decision at plus 175, and I think he can do it. I mentioned the ages because I thought Journey was a little younger, like in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. So there's not a huge discrepancy, but I do think there is a huge discrepancy when it comes to the athleticism and the speed. I'd rather be in the Newsom side to win a very squeaky, close decision based off of like, oh, well, he landed a little bit more. He was a little bit more impressive on the feet, opposed to like maybe Brian trying to go for takedowns, because his takedowns, they've gotten better, but he then again decisioned the crap out of Kevin Kroom by taking him down repeatedly. And Kevin's a bare knuckle boxer now. So I like the Newsom side. He's not necessarily my favorite underdog. There's one more that I'm iffy on, but I think that Journey's got a good chance to win this one by decision, possibly even get a knockout along the way. But just straight money line, Journey Newsom might be a play for me. Let's move on. Next bout. Oh boy, I've got a lot to say about this women's bout. We've got Stephanie Egger versus a newcomer in Irina Alekseeva, and the odds have it Egger's minus 300, my bad, versus, as we call her, the Russian Ronda here. That's her nickname, Irina Alekseeva, plus 240. I woke up this morning and I'm like, you know what sounds like a good idea? Let me do some research on this nobody that I've never heard of in Irina Alekseeva. And it was a bad morning for me. It was not good. I did my research on her, and let me read my notes. And I wrote quite a bit of notes here. Sambo world champion, judo black belt. That's really all I can tell you about her when it comes to like her credentials. Stephanie Egger herself is also a judoka. I think she fought Ronda Rousey. I can't recall, like in a judo contest. This is at 135. Alekseeva used to fight at 145. I think she fought at 125. Let me go back and check. I saw her fight in Bellator where she missed weight, and I kind of thought maybe that's a fight. Yeah, it was a catch weight because she missed weight. It was 130. I looked at that fight and I'm like, well, let's not take this example and use it as her overall career, because she looked really bad in that fight against Stephanie Page where she got a decision. Like she looked hittable. I'm like, maybe it's just a bad weight cut. Nope, that's how she fights. She fights very poorly. So one thing that I wrote down about her was that she's a judo black belt, obviously Sambo world champion. She doesn't use it, though. She doesn't use any of that. I've not seen her properly use any sort of technique. I don't know the actual names of the fucking like hip tosses and whatever, but she almost seems as if she may have those credentials, but she doesn't know how to fight in a real fight. Like, yeah, she can probably win a competition, but in a real fight, she's like, I don't know, like she gets too far ahead of herself. Like she wants to actually strike and get into like a weird brawl. Like she's just not a very high IQ type of fighter. Let's see here. Yeah, I wrote that she's a little too wild in her stand up. She seems too anxious to kind of go. Like she wants to go and do something. Like she wants to win immediately. She fought her only loss was against Lilia Kazak, where she had a huge height and reach advantage over her. Kind of hurt her a little bit, took her down. And then she did something that I just cannot get out of my brain. And it just kind of sums up everything for me. Like it makes me curiously upset to think that someone can be this bad. It's almost like I don't know, like can she get better? But she got the takedown, but for whatever reason, she kind of went flat on her stomach. Like the girl reversed her, and she went straight flat on her stomach, and she got her back taken. Like she had zero defense. Like she just kind of laid there like a dead whale, and it's like what was she doing? Like she wasn't hurt, and she got her back taken. She nearly got choked out in the first round. Like the choke was in, the time literally just ran out. Like had she had more seconds, she would have gotten tapped out. And then after that, the smaller fighter decided like, hey, I can beat her ass, and she proceeded to beat the crap out of her on the feet. Like she just decisioned her, and I'm like, this girl's absolutely terrible. Like she is one of the worst fighters I've ever seen. And I do think that Stephanie Egger, like Stephanie's not like a oh my god a minus 300 fighter. I just think that her skill set is way above and beyond Alekseeva. Like her striking is not the greatest, but she's got a really solid straight right hand that she uses. She actually uses her judo. She can get on top. She can go for submissions. Like they call the arena girl Russian Ronda. I've only seen her get one armbar, but it didn't seem like a very technically good armbar. It was just that she submitted some loser. And shit, I can do that. You know, it is what it is. Stephanie's gotten the armbar in better competition. I do worry, and this is my biggest worry. I even wrote down in my Discord, like, I'm thinking about max betting Stephanie Egger, but I'm like, even writing that out sounded like a moron take. I do think inside the distance might be a good play here. I think Egger's just too good. I think her being slightly shorter will benefit her in the clinch, taking her down. I think Stephanie's just overall the more skilled fighter. My biggest concern was that because they're both judokas, sometimes, and I mean sometimes, when fighters of the same background get into a fight, it seems as if they kind of negate each other. Like they know each other's tricks, and it becomes a weird affair. Like when, say, a bad fighter who's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu gets knocked out all the time, fights a solid fighter with jiu-jitsu background, and they go at it, the jiu-jitsu kind of cancels out, and it can get into a wild, sloppy striking fest where it's a 50-50 matchup, and you rather be in the side of the dog. I I'm kind of weary of that because we haven't seen Irini or whatever the fuck her name is fight in some time. And I went to her Instagram to see how she's been looking. She's been away for a while. Her last fight in Bellator was a year and a half ago, and I'm thinking, why did she get signed? Like, what is it about her? What am I missing? Well, I see her Instagram, and she cut her hair into like a weird, you know what type of haircut where it's like short on the sides. It kind of looks like Rose Namajunas, and she's got a bunch of tattoos, and she doesn't seem to be taking training seriously. She's kind of being like a thought girl, but not really. I don't know what it is. She's kind of hanging out with her girls and stuff. But to me, that kind of gives me like a bad mental health type of thing. Like maybe she's not all there. She's not taking training seriously. I don't know. I'm just kind of maybe thinking too much into it just because I'm thinking of the potential of the max bet on Egger. But I do think the submission for Egger or inside the distance might be the play. I feel terrible, and I mean terrible, for actually talking so much about this fight. I just had to get it off my chest that Alekseeva is one of the worst fighters I've seen. Like I didn't see any redeeming qualities. I think in the UFC is going to get completely chewed up. Now, I will preface that because she's been away for so long and there's not a whole lot to her that I can see, she might come out here and look impressive. She might develop some good striking. That's why I'm like, I rather stay away from it. I might just take Eggers inside the distance because if things go the way I think, Eggers should just like beat her ass like completely. So inside the distance might be the best play for me, or inside the distance scorecards no action. I think that might be where I'm going to go with, but it seems like a trap. You know what I mean? Like it's too like obvious to me that Eggers is going to beat her ass. But I'll go round number two, Eggers. I would stay away from this one. Like, do your tape watch on this one, fellas and ladies, because I feel as if this is like there's something goofy going on here. Like, why is this on my TV? So we'll see what happens. Moving on, next bout, we've got Cody Durden versus. Wait a minute, what the hell is a cowboy? Charles Johnson, Ching Chong? Who's doing this shit? Oh my god, I'm sorry. This is absolutely someone's been messing with my stuff. There we go. There we go. My apologies. Cody Durden versus Charles Johnson. And this fight, they've been going back and forth, obviously, on the Instagram, or not Instagram, the Twitters. And Charles Johnson is calling Cody Durden Cody Turden, and I don't know what the hell what Charles Johnson is calling. I'm sorry, Cody Durden is calling Charles Johnson, but I believe it starts with an and it's not pretty. Energy Charles Johnson minus 200. Come back on Cody Durden plus 165. You know what? They both. It's. Let me take a sip of fucking energy drink. All right. Girlfriend's bringing home a steak, so I have to see what was all that about. So, anyways, Charles Johnson, he didn't look good his last fight. I hate to admit it, but I had a pretty large bet on him that it made me feel a little dirty. Like I thought I had a good read on it, and didn't pan out. It happens, you have to kind of get back on the saddle. And yeah, he looked bad. I think it was mostly because it was like a catch weight type of bout, and he just didn't have the cardio that I was expecting him to have against Ode. And what kind of bummed me out is that Ode was getting takedowns on him when he shouldn't have gotten those takedowns. Even later in the round, I'm like, oh, dude, Ode's going to slow down, take over, beat his ass. And I really thought that Charles Johnson won that fight. I thought he did enough to win round number 2 and 3, I believe. For sure, I thought he won round number 3. But in this game, like me being in that field of judging, like it is what it is. It just happens sometimes. Like it's not the judge's fault that they didn't see it my way. It's Charles Johnson's fault that they didn't see it his way. He didn't do enough. He should have made it solidified. He shouldn't have given up takedowns. And it gives me the impression that maybe Cody could take him down because he's a pretty solid dog, plus 165. He's shown that he definitely has the grappling and the chops to really get anybody down on the ground. I just think this is a really bad matchup for him. I think that if the inner G Charles Johnson shows up, not that lesser G that showed up in his last fight, if that true energy shows up, and I think he will, because like after that last performance, he's like, oh, I gotta make sure things are right. Like I think he also fought ill. I'm not gonna make excuses for him. I'm just saying, like, I'm not gonna take one performance and just bring it on to the next fight. What I do know about Cody is that he slows down and his striking's not all that great. I think as if, yeah, I should preface he did knock out JP Buys, but so did so did his wife. So, anyways, Charles Johnson, if he keeps it on the feet, which I think he will, he might get taken down. I think he might get back up. He's got good get ups. Like shit, I think the first round might be a little close with Charles edging it slightly, and the second round might not be close at all. I think eventually Cody gets cracked with long straights. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage over Cody, Charles does. And I think he eventually puts him away. I think he hurts him enough. Come round number 3, if Charles Johnson still has that energy, I think he will put away Cody Durden eventually. Round number 2, round number 3, because Cody does slow down. Like I'm a fan of both of these guys, right? Like I like Cody Durden. I like him for his stance on certain political. Anyways, I have a joke about like me and Cody Durden kicking them back to where they came from, and it's a picture of the movie Sidekicks with uh, the kid that killed himself and Chuck Norris are doing like a sidekick together. I think it's just fucking funny. But I like them both. Like Charles Johnson seems like a cool dude. I hate the thing that he has in his back of his head, but I think energy ends up knocking him out. I think his long legs, his long teeps up the middle are going to really affect the gas tank of Cody Durden. And eventually he's going to tire. And I think if, again, energy still has that energy, he's going to put him away either late round number 2 or round number 3. So I'll go with Charles Johnson just to say safe. I'll say round number 2 TKO. Next bout, we've got Natan Levy versus Pete Rodriguez. And I love this picture because it really emphasizes for Pete that right hand. I think primarily that's what I try to capture in this vigil, that his right hand is like the most impressive thing about him. I couldn't really find a bad picture of Pete Rodriguez, so I just highlighted how good that right hand is. And then I noticed, oh, it's that guy that's on Twitter. I forget his name. And then Natan Levy. I like Natan Levy. I like Natan Levy to an extent. I think he's definitely athletic. I think he's got great cardio for. Well, I'll explain in a little bit. It's not necessarily that he has great cardio, but I'll explain why I think he has kind of great cardio. He trains and he's hanging out with Colby Covington, and I'm like, hey, Colby's cool. And then I kind of understand that they have a partnership because he's Jewish and Israel and U.S. Anyways, I think Natan's grown on me a little bit. Pete Rodriguez, dead game. He definitely showed what he's all about. Like I wanted to make sure what his background was when it came to like stuffing takedowns because I know what he can do on the feet. He's very impressive on the feet. He's heavy-handed. The guy is like thick, man. He attacks the body very well. He definitely hooks his punches very nicely and he bangs perfectly. I just like the way he fights. I think he can definitely crack, but he's a plus 225 underdog compared to the minus 275 favorite of Natan Levy. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, Natan should just be able to take him down. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've never seen Pete get taken down. Usually in his pro fights, he's either knocking motherfuckers out. Like in Mexico, he knocked a bunch of dudes out in Mexico. And by a bunch, I mean like four. Or getting knocked out by probably the future contender / champion in the world of Jack Della. So it's like, let me go back and look at what he can do. And I've seen that he actually has an extensive amateur background where I've seen him kind of stuff takedowns. And I also have it here that he's training out of the lab in Arizona. So like, he's getting proper training, right? Like he's making the commute out there. And I feel as if he's got definitely the power to hurt Natan Levy. So I'm looking at Levy here. I'm like, what does he got? What does he got? He's very good. He's very good when it comes to pacing himself. He's very good with the kicks. He's devastating with the kicks, like kicks to the body, kicks to the head. He doesn't telegraph the lead head kick. He does a lot of good stuff. But when I mentioned that he has impressive cardio or whatever, he does if he doesn't do stupid shit like spinning back kicks because he's so heavily muscular. I think that if he uses a game plan of like definitely grappling, mixing up his takedowns with his striking, I think he could have solid cardio that could push him to not get tired because he got tired his last fight against Raito, whatever the fuck his name is, Valdez, Generico Valdez. And Valdez was kind of cracking him. Like in the second round, Valdez had really good cardio. He just kind of succumbed to the like tired grappling of Natan Levy, which was pretty impressive, but he was getting hit a little too much for my liking for me considering betting him. Natan, that is. Another thing that I noticed, if anybody out there is like interested in possible draws or point deductions, Natan Levy is a karate specialist. He comes from like that traditional karate background. And I felt so freaking smart when I kind of saw this because I started noticing like, hey, he's kicking the inside leg kick. And like, you don't really see that often. Like it's now the new bell of the ball is the low calf kicks. I'm like, why is he throwing the inside kick to like near the thigh? And I'm like, it's probably because he's got that karate background. But then I started realizing maybe because of that, it could lead to point deductions and getting kicks to the balls. And I'm actually watching the Gennaro fight and he starts kicking him in the balls. He kicked him twice. And I'm like, oh crap. Like it's a possibility with Pete coming in, he can kick him inside the leg and get a point deducted. So it could lead to a possible draw if Natan is up. So this might be a good spot. I know someone out there that might be interested in it, but a possible draw based off of Natan getting warnings for kicks to the balls and he gets one too many. But what else do I have here? Yeah, when he's in distance, his kicks are lethal. I like the way Pete kind of closes the distance with his body. I think if he attacks the body, he could have some success here. I think there's the big discrepancy in the price tags for both because Natan has fought good competition. We know what he's capable of. We really don't know what Pete's capable of other than being able to knock dudes out. Yes, he knocked out the worst guy in the entire UFC, but he has that power and he's got the skills. He's got the boxing skills. He doesn't necessarily have the defense. But what I'm thinking with Rodriguez is that if he works the body, he slows down Natan Levy, he stays defensively sound, he avoids getting clinched up and taken down, I do think he's got the huge possibility of finishing Natan Levy, attacking the body, swooping up to the head, because Natan's boxing defense isn't great. His hands suck. His kicks are fantastic. The pressure of Pete could really affect not only the gas tank and the defense of Natan, where he's shooting for takedowns. And I know he probably fell in love with that knee that he landed on that one bum. I think he might be a good spot to take as an underdog. Just money line Pete Rodriguez plus 225. I mean, do your own research. I might do this one. I'm going to pick Rodriguez. I just get a good feeling about him. I mean, if Natan Levy comes out here and he starts grappling, I'm like, okay, rip up the ticket, because I know, like, if Pete gets taken down, probably won't be able to get back up, because Natan Levy's control was pretty impressive in that last round against Gennaro. So we'll see. I just get a feeling that this line should be a little bit closer. They're both similarly under experience, 8-1 for Levy and 5-1 for Pete Rodriguez. Technically, I think Pete fought the better guy in Jack Della, and he was kind of hitting Jack Della a little bit. So I'm like, hey, he's not bad. So I'll go with Pete Rodriguez as kind of like a long shot. I might take a shot on him at plus 225. Should worth a shot for me. I'll take. And also, the only guy to beat Natan Levy is a Mexican dude. But then again, he did beat a Mexican dude in his last fight. So it's like, we'll see. Maybe the vengeance of the Generico will come out in Pete Rodriguez's fist. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll go round number 2. No. Yeah, late round number 2, Rodriguez TKO. Next bout, Julian Erosa versus Fernando Padilla. And Juicy J minus 190 comeback on Padilla is plus 160. And I didn't want to just go like, oh, newcomer, LFA guy. Let's actually break him down, because I was instantly going to take Julian Erosa, because I know how good Julian is. It just, we know what Julian's problem is. Like, I wrote down like, oh God, I fucking missed a joke about the last fight. Never mind. It's gone. It's too late. Anyways, what I wrote about Julian Erosa is that he'd be champ if he had a chin. The guy is really solid absolutely everywhere. Good striking, good power, good mix up of techniques, flying knees, head kicks, all this crap. Beautiful chokes, good control. He's fought and beat a lot of really good people. And Fernando, little underwhelming for my liking, like when I'm looking at his record. And he does have some surprising wins on his record, or not necessarily wins, but names on his record. He actually beat everyone's favorite Nebraskan Derek Minner by submission. I actually went back and watched, like, not the whole fight, but the clip where Minner's like, oh, I'm just going to beat up this young guy. And I know he's got a crafty guard, but I'm going to beat him up. And then it shows him getting triangled by the long legs of the Mexican dude. So he beat Derek Minner in the first round, but that's not a surprise. Like, Derek Minner back in the day, I said, like, he's known for getting beaten the first round. He's definitely known for getting beaten the first round now, but he also lost to Dan Ige. Padilla did. He lost also to Spike Carlisle. So he's got some good names on his record, not necessarily beating them all, but like, hey, interesting. So I went back, watched him, and my notes here have it that he's long, he's tall, he's slow, he stalks, he's hittable, he moves forward. I felt super underwhelmed by him. Like, I didn't think he posed a major threat to Julian, opposed to like knocking him out. Like, yeah, a lot of people can knock out Julian, but when you expect it to happen, it never happens. Like, I just don't think he has the it factor. I think he slows down after the third round. Like, I just don't know if he's got what it takes to beat Julian Erosa. I kind of wrote down that he is a worse version of Julian Erosa. Now, I will say his chin is way better. He's way better. So if he can catch Julian, it is what it is. It definitely can happen. Like, the better fighter doesn't always win. And in this case, it's Julian, but Julian has, I keep calling him Jillian. Julian has the X factor of having a terrible, terrible chin. / if he doesn't get put out cold, he'll come back Terminator style. And I do think that if it gets extended into the later rounds, like round number 2, round number 3, he's going to have a lot of success. I think because Padilla likes to stalk dudes, kind of go after him, he doesn't cut off the cage very well. And I think with the movement of Julian, he's going to move well. He's going to stick and move, get out of the way, go for takedowns, beat him up a little bit. I don't think Padilla's going to be able to get anything off of his back. Like, he's got a crafty guard, long legs. I just don't see him being able to catch Julian. I think Julian's just too savvy, too good on the ground. They're equally in height. It's just he has to protect his chin. Do not take anything for granted, Julian. Like, he didn't see that kick coming from Bruce Leroy, but to be fair, that was a beautiful kick. No setup, just whack. So I don't blame him for that. It shit happens. You're going to see Padilla's kicks coming. You just have to be like careful not to get hit. I think Erosa can get a submission in round number 3, round number 2. Padilla, I think he's tough. He's going to be super fun. It's just that the guy doesn't really move his head too much. He's too hittable for my liking. And I just wasn't impressed. And if he can come out here and finish Julian Erosa, props to him. Like, he is plus 160. It's a tough Mexican kid. I just, again, was not too impressed by him. And I think Erosa will show him that, like, hey, I am the better version of you. Follow my lead, do what I do, move a little bit more, get better cardio, and we can see what happens in the future. But right now, I'll take the actual Juicy J to defeat this fraudster Juicy J in third round submission. Next bout, heavyweight bout, we have the prelim main event. We've got Martin Buday versus Jake, the prototype Collier. Collier is plus 100. Come back on Buday is minus 120. Let me check those odds because I saw that they were still pretty close. They're still floating around at like minus 110 each. So I like Buday, and I keep calling him Buday. Sounds like bidet, so I might call him Buday by accident. But I like Buday to beat Collier, and I'll say this just to kind of keep it simple. I think Jake Collier is the much better fighter everywhere, on the ground, on the feet, in the clinch, everywhere. I think he's the better kickboxer. I think he's the better striker, period, the better boxer. He's got better jiu-jitsu, in my opinion. He's got toughness. He's shown cardio. The only thing is that that's all at like 205. This is heavyweight. Jake Collier's not a true heavyweight, and he kind of proved that. Like, he's a ballooned up 185er, and I hate to really admit that because I thought he was doing so well at heavyweight. He was doing really well. Like, he was translating a little bit of the speed. His cardio seemed fine, but that last fight, it just proved to me against Chris Barnett, like, this guy is literally not a heavyweight because he doesn't have it. He doesn't have that heavyweight kind of style. Buday, he's got solid cardio for heavyweight. He's got power in the punches, and the best thing of all is that he's a true heavyweight. And practically what I'm saying is that I think Collier is going to get clinched up. He's going to get tired, and Buday, with that better cardio at heavyweight, is eventually going to either take him down and pound him out and or finish him on the feet. I mean, Collier's got a good shot to knock him out early, but I think Buday's shown a pretty good chin. And I don't know, man. Like, I think there's a way to beat Collier. And I don't know if I have to explain the fight, the Chris Barnett fight. He was beating Chris, and then he gassed himself out. And then after he gassed himself out, it was like this guy's skill set went down the drain. He looked really good in the first like few minutes of the fight, and then he gassed out. And I think if Buday can gas him out, and he's good at it, like, he'll hold you up against the cage. And Collier's not fast like Bresky. Bresky was too quick, at heavyweight, and he had some trouble with him. Collier ain't that fast. I think he's gonna feel it. I think he's gonna feel the heavyweight body of Buday, and he's going to get clinched up. He's going to do the same thing that he did to Charles Barnett. So it's going to be an MMA math kind of thing. Buday beat Barnett. Barnett beat Jay Collier. Buday beats Jay Collier. And I hate to admit that MMA math works, but I think it works here. I think it's just the size is going to be too much for Collier. He's going to gas himself out. I don't think his power is going to translate against a big dude like Buday, who I think he can take a punch pretty well. And that clinch is going to eviscerate the gas tank of Jake, and come round number 2 or 3, he's going to be too tired and he's going to get pounded out. So I'll go with Jake to get pounded out in round number 3 by Buday. Right, main card opener. It was supposed to be Anglusa versus Josh Quinlan, but it's, to my knowledge, it's Josh Quinlan versus Trey Waters. Let me make sure if everything's been updated. It still hasn't been updated, so let me go and give you a bit of a rundown on Trey, because there's no odds for this yet. But I found something interesting about this fight, because I'm like, oh, Josh probably gonna knock him out, right? This Trey Waters sounds familiar, and he's the guy who got his ass beat by Gabriel Bonfim in the Contender Series. So I took that out of the equation, right? Like, Bonfim right now beat both of them in the same night. So I took that fight out of the equation. I look back, and I'm like, I'm considering Trey Waters as an undefeated fighter. So let's look at what he's produced. So I went back and watched some of his tape, and it's semi-impressive. I think he does belong in the UFC. He's very long. He is Let's see here, 6'5" listed on here. He is 77-inch reach. And let's talk about what I don't like about Waters. I think he's obviously a long, tall grappler. Not grappler, sorry, striker. He's very competent. I just think that he has a bit of what I like to call a bird bone syndrome, where he could probably get taken down. His takedown defense is really dictated on his length. He can use his long legs to kind of stay vertical, but I think he can get taken down and he can get kind of held down and beat up a little bit. But he does have those long legs. He uses his legs pretty decently. His main power source would be the long leg. Oh, God damn it. I got all tripped up. His main power source would be the long arms that he uses. His boxing's pretty solid. He keeps his hands down, which I don't like. And I mean, he does like the Bobby Green kind of thing, like moves around, hands down, but he ain't no fucking Bobby Green, right? Bobby Green's like the master of it. And he's got a lot of opportunities to get cracked, especially with the power of Quinlan. And I'll talk about Quinlan in a bit. I don't like that he does that. Like, dude, keep your fucking hands up. So I'm considering like fading him based off of that, but I'm looking more into him. The guy's got some skill, right? He definitely has some skill, good power in his punches. Like he uses the jab, effective boxing. I like what he's got. I think he's a solid fighter. He belongs in the UFC. But yeah, I'm watching the tape on this guy, and it goes from unimpressive to impressive. Like he's got the long arms for the power guillotines and the long man chokes, like Darces and whatnot. He loves to use those. I think he's definitely got a chance here to beat Josh Quinlan. Depending on the odds, like right now, everything's going to dictate on the odds. I might stay away from this one completely. I might even take inside the distance, just again, depending on what the odds are. And for those who are interested in my take on Josh Quinlan, yeah, he was busted for roids or whatever, but I'm watching tape on him and I'm like, this guy's an absolute destroyer. He hits ridiculously hard. Like I'm watching the tape back on when he fought that other guy from Kansas City, um, Jason Witt, and the way he hit him with that left hand that put him out completely cold. It was impressive for Jason Witt status, right? Like, yes, Jason Witt gets knocked out often, but he put everything into that and he knocked him out in midair. And I'm like, Jesus, this guy hits ridiculously hard. Like, definitely has a lot of power in those punches. And I'm going back and watching more tape on him. I'm like, ooh, the Logan Urban fight in the Contender Series. Like, damn, he knocked him the fuck out. Like, he's a savage. He's a ridiculous monster. This guy has like one of the best like finishing IQs out there. Like, he's a savage. He won't let up. And then as I'm going down and watching his LFA tape, I got less and less impressed by the guy. And I'm like, huh, like he's got a chance here to beat Trey Waters, like knocking him out because he keeps his hands low. But he did something, and I felt really smart realizing this, that he throws his leg kicks naked, right? He throws very good hard low kicks. And from what I've been hearing, he has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't seem to use it to throw that out of the fucking water. I think it's going to be a striking matchup that instantly gives Trey Waters a huge advantage. Not to say that Josh won't try to grapple here. It's just that from what I've seen, he doesn't. He definitely doesn't. He likes to stand and bang. He's a tough Hawaiian. He wants to prove it. Back to the leg kicks. He throws his leg kicks naked. Like he hits really hard with those kicks, but I feel as if the length of Trey Waters, once he gets a couple kicks to the leg, he's going to blast that right hand down the middle. And I feel as if he can hurt Josh. Because of that, like I'm like, it's just the power and the precision. Anything can really happen here. It's such a damn tough fight, and I really don't even know the odds. So I'm kind of like, I'm not sure what to even say, because if I had the odds, I'd kind of say like I kind of want to take a shot on Trey, but I don't really know what the odds are going to be. I do think that if Josh is like minus 200 or anywhere near that, I think that's not right. I cap this one a little bit closer. I will give Josh the advantage, like maybe like minus 160, minus 150 because of that ridiculous power. I mean, like, hell, if he throws a couple kicks, he could deaden the nerves of Trey Waters and he wouldn't even have a chance to throw that counter right hand. I just think that he is a little too hittable. He doesn't use that grappling. And it pisses me off that when he does get on top of dudes, and he's got some solid stuff off the ground, he's able to reverse, he's able to get his back taken, reverses into the guy. He's good on the ground, but it's almost like he doesn't want to do any of that stuff. Like, I don't know what it is. Once I see this guy going for takedowns and actively using his ground and pound, which is pretty solid, I'll consider maybe, okay, minus 200 on the guy. I just want to stay away from it. I do think that Trey has a chance to catch Josh because he's real slick. Like, dude even got a nasty up knee on a dude, even though he was losing the whole fight. Like, the guy's slick. Again, he belongs in the UFC. I think he's gonna have some really good fights. I'm gonna say dog or pass on this one. I cannot pick a real winner between the two. I do think that, oh man, it's just such a close fight. It really is. I will say the fight doesn't go the distance. If I have to pick a winner, like I have to default to the underdog, I'll pick Trey Waters. I know he's coming in on short notice. I don't know how his weight cut's going to be. So there's a lot of factors going against him. I just think that with his striking, with the willingness to trade in Josh and him wanting that nasty knockout, I think he can get pieced up on the feet. So I'll go with Trey on this one. Not confident. Don't hold this shit against me. I just do think that that Trey can win this one. So probably go with doesn't go the distance. Overall, I'm just gonna stay the hell away from it. Next bout at heavyweight, we've got Waldo Cortez Acosta, aka Salsa Boy, versus Bizao Marcos Rogerio de Lima. It's a battle of the guys with three names. The odds have it minus 140 for De Lima. Come back on Cortez Acosta plus 115. I don't have much to say about this one. I don't like Acosta. I think he's beaten the two worst guys in the division in Jared Vandera, which I thought Jared could have won that fight. It pisses me the hell off. I had money on Jared. I believed in Jared. I'm like, Jared, I believe in you, Jared. I texted Jared, not really, but I texted someone randomly like named Jared. I'm like, Jared, I believe in you. Get this to Vandera. And he let me down again, Jared Vandera. Like, dude, like he was attacking the legs, beating him up, and I really thought they could give it to Vandera, but like, it's Jared Vandera. You cannot let him win a fight in the UFC. And Chase Sherman, I thought Chase should be able to beat him. I really thought, like, take him down. You've been working your wrestling, kick the legs. Don't worry about striking with the guy. The guy can strike, definitely can. Takes him down in the first round, and then he lost a will to fight. And it's like, man, like the same stuff over and over with these two guys. Like and he went to a decision with both. They would not have survived with Pezao at all. Pezao kicks freaking hard. He throws hooks. We know what he's going to do. I know Acosta, he's been kind of working on his defense with the leg kicks, but I think if he takes a couple from Pezao, he ain't going to like it. Like, to give him credit, because I don't like to discredit specific fighters, although I don't necessarily think that Acosta's top level quite yet. I think it's a huge step up in competition. I think there's a lot of value in De Lima. I always have to think about how can De Lima lose. Like, I've seen him lose before, but he usually loses to grapplers. If you go back and kind of look at his history in the UFC, I'm going to pull it up right now. You kind of notice that he's losing primarily to grapplers and he's beating up these strikers. So his last loss was to Blagoy Ivanov. Blagoy kind of pieced him up a little bit on the feet, but he's primarily that striker, grappler kind of boxer type. I'll let it slide. Blagoy's got an awesome chin as well. And I actually thought that De Lima won that fight, but it is what it is. Romanov, grappler. That was before he discovered he was a pussy. So let's see. Stefan Struve, he's a striker, but he's honestly more of a long, tall grappler. Oven St. Preux, grappler. Antagulov, grappler. Krylov, grappler. They all basically got choked out. Shit, Antonio Carlos Jr. even submitted him in the tough Brazil. So you kind of see the pattern. But when he's fighting strikers, he's whipping their ass. Maurice Green, Ben Rothwell, Andrei Arlovsky, he even took him down and choked him out. I see a lot of upside on De Lima. I'm probably going to take a shot on him. Not a shot. It's almost like, oh, I don't know what to do. I think he's going to win this one. I think once Acosta goes in there and he feels the power and those kicks, he's going to be like, oh, shit. I don't think I've ever felt anything like this before. But as I mentioned, the positives of Acosta, his boxing solid. Like, he's got good heavyweight cardio. He goes a while. Like, although I thought he lost the Bandera fight, and that's me just being like come on now, you were limping. Like the fact that he still kept going, he's got heart. He's proven it. I've never seen him really get hurt or rocked. But then again, he only fought the bums of the division, the bottom of the barrel, the two bottoms of the barrel. So much so that they fought each other, and it was a bummy barrel fight. What else do I have here for him? Yeah, like I like the way he attacks the body. He's got a really good fastball. He used to be a pitcher, I believe, for the Pirates, Pittsburgh Pirates. The guy can throw punches. I like the guy, definitely. I think I'm coming around to his skill set, but not him as a fighter. His skill set is good, but the overall package isn't there. Again, I think it's a big step up. I think De Lima possibly TKOs him or possibly submits him. I'm going to say in the second round. Shit, I really don't know. I'm just going to pick De Lima, period. At minus 140, as long as the line doesn't go too nuts, it's so worth it to me. I think he's going to do whatever he can. Like the fact that he took down, well, he didn't take down Arlovsky, knocked him down. He knocked him down and he submitted him. That shows growth to me for a 37-year-old guy, that he's like, you know what? What's the point of pounding him out when the neck's there? I mean, if he can do that to Waldo, who when he got taken down by Sherman, he had nothing. And I think De Lima will see that. I think De Lima can get a TKO or some. It just depends, right? Like it's hard to say because you expect, say, for example, is Brady Heastand to get a submission, but he gets a TKO. In this particular case, you can have Rogerio De Lima just pound him out. You see that Acosta has a solid chin. He's like, fuck it, rear naked choke. So I'll say possibly round number one, inside the distance. I don't want to have to pick that De Lima gets a TKO. So I'll go inside the distance here. But to give an actual prediction, I'll say submission round number one. Next bout, middleweight, we've got Cody Brundage versus Rodolfo, the black belt Hunter Viera. Won't spend too much time on this one. I think Viera wins this one. He's got the better jiu-jitsu, clearly, the black belt Hunter. He's minus 280. The comeback on Cody's plus 230. I understand anyone who wants to take a shot on Cody Brundage because, like, the striking, right? The striking, oh, he's going to be the better striker. I don't think Cody is the guy people think he is. He had 2 good wins. I really think he just got super lucky. He got Dalcha after Dalcha was whipping his ass. Dalcha made a mistake. He got Tresean Gore. He knocked him out. Didn't see that coming because Tresean, he didn't see that coming. He just like, oh, I'm just gonna walk him down with my hands down and no threat here. It is what it is. And we saw the back to form of the true Cody Brundage, where he got the takedown on Mikhail. He reversed him, got on top of him, pounded him out within the guard. That's a wrestler, grappler in Cody Brundage. You should not be getting TKO'd within the guard like that. And it's like, come on, man. Like, he's not the guy. He's not the guy to think, oh yeah, I think Cody could potentially beat Rodolfo Viera. Like, of course, there's a chance. We've seen Rodolfo pull that massive cucky stunt against Anthony Hernandez, but that was before we knew who Hernandez really was. He had to shed that cocoon of being a fat, fluffy idiot to being the like Kane 2.0. So it ain't too bad. And his last loss was Chris Curtis. And what are you going to do? Chris Curtis is just a much better fighter. I think Chris Curtis would brutalize Cody Brundage and take his wife. And I think it would still work because if Chris Curtis were to take Cody Brundage's wife, who was Amanda Bobby Cooper, hey, that works out. Amanda Bobby Cooper then became Amanda Bobby Brundage, which is like ABB. If Curtis ends up, like, say, fighting Cody Brundage and we have Amanda Bobby Brundage on the line, she'll be back to ABC Amanda Bobby Curtis. Hey, it all works out. Let's hope that happens one day. Probably won't because Curtis is like way above them in the ranks. But Viera, if people were to think, yeah, he's got nothing on the feet, he's developed on the feet. He's just tentative. He's just not positive in his striking. His jab developed beautifully. Really solid jab. He's got a lot of power. Cody's not the best defensive wrestler. Cody Brundage's best weapons are when he mixes in the takedowns or the threat of the takedown to kind of allow his strikes to get through. And that's usually what happens where he gets some success. Like, hey, takedown is coming. Nope, uppercut or some stupid shit like that. Like, because you're so afraid of the takedown that the hands are there. And then when you don't have any grappling, Cody will take you down and take advantage. He ain't going to want to take down Viera. It ain't going to happen. Viera will take down Cody. And if he doesn't, I think he can hang on the feet. I don't think that Brundage is going to present a lot of threats on the feet for Viera. Curtis couldn't knock him out. And, Viera did shoot for a ton of takedowns in that fight, even though he was tired. I just see Viera being able to eventually get the submission. I'm going to say round number 1. I think it's going to be something slick, man. Like Viera has proven to me in the Dustin Stoltzfus fight, although it was kind of close, he was just kind of too afraid to strike. But when he was landing that jab, I was like, beauty, beauty, beauty. And the way he took the back, like a damn spider monkey, was one of the most beautiful back take to rear naked chokes I've ever seen. And that just shows how damn good he is. And I think that he's going to take him down, and Cody's going to be like, oh, I'm going to reverse him. He's in mount, armbar, belly down, and Cody's going to tap. I feel bad for Cody here. And if he wins, like anything can happen. If he wins, it's another like streaky, memey type of performance where something happens. Like Viera goes for the armbar and he like cuts himself on the cage trying to go belly down, or some stupid thing like that happens. But I've seen crazier things happen. I wouldn't be shocked if Cody wins, but yeah, I guess I kind of would. But I'll go Viera first round submission. Next bout, co-main event. I'll be brief on this one. I don't see a way that Mihail wins this fight. Mihail, I love the guy, but this is a terrible matchup for him in Borrhalo, the natural, and he truly is. He's minus 300. Come back on Mihail Olesiejczuk Hussar plus 240. To me, it's been proven that Caio not only has fought the better competition, he's just too well-rounded for Mihail. He beat Cody Brundage, for God's sakes, and Cody took him down. Caio's going to take him down. Caio's got excellent fight IQ. Let me blow him a little bit and talk about how good he is. He's got a Machida stance. Automatically, beauty. I love Machida. He's one of my favorite fighters. And the way he uses that bouncing southpaw, like sideways southpaw karate stance, motherfucker, man. Like he landed on Muradov so quickly and beautifully. I was like, Jesus, if he were to do that bam bam, catch the guy off guard as the head has been pushed back by the jab or the right hand, and then duck under for a takedown, it's like, you're fucked. And then the guy can take your back, he can backpack you, he can submit you. He's got everything going for him. It's just that he needs to tighten up a couple things. But I think right now he's just a much better overall package. He's going to have a height advantage by an inch. He's going to have the inch reach advantage. He's just better everywhere. Mihail, I love the guy. He's a nasty boxer. He's got an excellent chin. He's been submitted too many times for my liking by really good grapplers. Let's list them for you, because when he fights strikers, he has success, opposed to one and Jacoby, who kind of had to grapple him a little bit. But Jimmy Crute, Kimura him, round number 1. Oven St. Preux, Von Preux, round number 2. And I think that's it. No, he's been beaten by a triangle choke in the past as well. He's kind of, his kryptonite is just the submissions, the submission game, the control time, the getting him on his back. Although he's getting better, obviously at the overall MMA game, his primary focus is on the feet, and that's where he does his best work. Although, yeah, those fights were at 205, like the St. Preux and the Jimmy Crute. Kyle's just so much better than both these guys in every facet of the game. He just mixes things up way better. And if for those thinking yeah, but he got reversed by Muradov. Muradov was there to win that fight. He didn't really have much on the feet. He even had to shoot takedowns on Kyle because he thought he could have success. And he had a couple threats of chokes. And the main thing is that if you're thinking, oh my God, he got reversed and he got pushed off by a striker in Muradov. It's Mahmoud Muradov. He kind of has a history of having men on top of him for money. So I don't blame Kyle for that. You can't blame getting pushed off by a guy who routinely has men on top of him, if you know what I mean. So that's neither here nor there. But Caio, I think he wins this fight. I think he wins it by submission. I think he takes the back. I think on the feet he can hang. I just think he's going to be too fast. I think he's just going to be too skilled. It's usually a discrepancy if he's just a grappler and he can't strike, that maybe Mihail will force takedowns out of him. You ain't going to see nothing forced from Mihail to Caio. I think Caio's just going to do his thing. And as always, there's always a chance someone can get knocked out, but I just do not see it here because Mihail, I think he's just perfectly suited for Caio. And Kyle's been kind of talking shit, like, how come I'm not getting better competition? Essentially, like, I'm kind of dissing Mikhail, but I get it. Like, you shouldn't ever like look past your opponent. But in this particular case, it's like they gave him the perfect guy. It's like he went to the vending machine, like the little thing where you put the 2 quarters in, you turn the thing, and you want like a specific homies figure. I don't know if I'm dating myself by bringing up homie little figures that you would get from those little vending machines, and you want the guy with the beanie, and you're like, oh, I want the guy with the beanie so bad, and then you get the guy with the beanie. That's exactly what they gave him. They gave him the guy with the beanie. So I think Borrhalo got the perfect fight for him to just kind of display his submission skills, and I think he gets a submission in either the first or second. So I'll go Borrhalo by submission, round number 1 or 2. Next bout, main event, we've got Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone. Now, this is a moved fight. It was supposed to be a fight that happened last week or so. Got moved to the main event here because I forgot who pulled out. This was supposed to be who? I don't freaking remember. But now we got the new main event, and this was the fight I actually was more excited about, which was the co-main event previously. And I'm like, this fight's really good, and there's a lot of little intricacies here, little nuances about this fight that makes it intriguing. Now that it's a 5-round fight, I hate to say it, but I have to break it down like a brand new fight. As a 5-round fight, it's more interesting. Originally, I had Ricky Simone to win. I thought Ricky could just do better work for 3 rounds. I thought he could win this fight and not get knocked out by doing good work. I thought he could hold down Song Yadong. I thought he could just I just thought he was going to be able to do enough to win in 3 rounds. In 5 rounds, that's a little bit of a different story because we're not sure what a 5-round Ricky Simone can do. I know what a 5-round Song Yadong can do because we saw him in his last fight. He essentially went 5 rounds. His cardio looked good. Got stopped in the 5th officially because of the cut, but he was looking solid. He was winning later rounds. Like, the guy has the cardio, and I talked about how impressive he is, and I've talked about his issues and what I think about him, and how I've been more impressed by Ricky Simone's progression over the years, and as a fighter, and how he's gone from being like the hype prospect to getting knocked out by you know who, aka Team Alpha Male's boss, the coach of Song Yadong, Uriah Faber. So I brought that up, like maybe there's a new curse happening. Like, I thought, like, oh, is this a chance where another Team Alpha Male guy breaks the huge streak of Ricky Simone, where at first it was Uriah Faber that cracked him, pissed everybody off, and now it could be Song Yadong. Ricky's minus 140, so Song Yadong's plus 110. Very young, 25 years old for Song Yadong, the Kung Fu Kid, 30 years old for Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone's coming to his own. He's not afraid to strike. He can mix in the grappling. He's a powerful guy. Song Yadong's takedown defense, I've talked about how good it is, but he can get held down, definitely. He can definitely get held down. He didn't necessarily get held down by Cody. I've got Cody Bellinger on the mind. Cody Sandhagen, because Cody's kind of like he's a bird chest. He ain't that powerful. He ain't going to be getting lanky, crappy takedowns on a guy like Song. Ricky Simone, though, he's a powerhouse. Like, so I know he's going to take him down. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold him down throughout the entire fight. Like, if Ricky Simone, my initial plan was like, yeah, if you can hold him down, beat him up, possibly submit him later in the rounds, great. I can see you winning a decision, that is, in 3 rounds. With 2 extra rounds, knowing the cardio of Song Yadong and his get-up game and how he doesn't get deterred, there's more chances for Ricky to get knocked out. And that does scare me more. Like, a 5-round fight, people might say that it favors Ricky. I don't know if it truly does, because the more minutes on the clock is more chances that Song Yadong can knock the fuck out of Ricky Simone. And in this particular case, like, let me go back and read all my notes just to make sure I'm covering everything, because I talked about how Song got kind of out grappled by Phillips. He got outstruck by Phillips. I don't see a situation where Ricky's going to be the faster guy here, so I don't think he's going to get any unpredictable takedowns on him. He's just going to be pure brute strength and technique to get him down. And let's see here, Ricky maturing. He hits hard. I don't think he hits as hard as Song. I think Song's got the better chin, definitely. It's just really, if Ricky can be super careful, he can try to chip away, like just a couple drops on the rock. You know what I mean? Like, erode it, break it down, and eventually make it crumble by beating him later in the rounds, maybe getting an arm triangle or some sort of submission. The Rock obviously signifying Song Yadong. Or if he cannot erode the Rock of Song Yadong, I just thought of Rock Hard. If he can't erode and deteriorate Song Yadong, which I don't know if he can in 5 rounds, man. Like the way I saw him come forward and try to fight after that cut, it's like the guy's got that heart in him. He's got that dog in him, that kung fu monkey in him. I have to go with a dog on this one because I do believe because it's a huge difference between the 3 and the 5. With 5 rounds, more paced Ricky Simone, thinking that if it goes 5 rounds, he's going to have the cardio. He might not be as explosive. He might be a little bit more tentative, and that could lead to Song Yadong catching him with something, right? In 3 rounds, Ricky's like, I know my cardio. I'm used to 3 rounds. I can do X amount of work in each round, and I can feel comfortable enough to like win a decision. I know Song's cardio is solid. I think that because he's been the near distance and he looked solid and he won late rounds, I think that's going to benefit him more. I think he's not going to be worried about gassing himself out. I think he's going to throw with kind of reckless abandon without necessarily putting himself out of place to get taken down. It's just so crazy. Like for real, like if you look at it as a 3 round fight compared to a 5 round fight, that little nuance really changes things up. Like I picked Ricky Simone in the 3 round. I'm going 5 round Song Yadong. I get that. Like I don't want to be in that situation where Ricky gets tired and Song's like, all you did was try to take my ass down. You didn't do anything to me. I'm good to go. And then he goes out there and blasts him. That's my biggest fear. Like there's so much danger coming out of Song Yadong. Like it's such a great matchup. And also one thing that I wrote down, it's been a dog year so far, like a lot of dogs. And funny enough, is it the year of the dog for the Chinese calendar? It is year of the Webbit, the water Webbit. But overall, it's been the year of the dog. Like the heavyweight dog last night won in Pavlovich. Marab won as a pretty big dog. Like a lot of dogs have been winning the main events. Maybe it's another sign here, right? Like that Song Yadong wins this one. Um, Truly, honestly, I kind of want to see Ricky win. I think there's a lot of interesting matchups. Like they both present interesting matchups. I would like to see a Marab versus Ricky Simone rematch. That'd be awesome. I'm rooting for Ricky, not because I don't like Song Yadong. I just think that I kind of see the cap of Song. I think you beat him by being a better striker, kind of mixing in the takedowns, just outworking him and not getting hit by that right hand. Because I don't really know the true potential of Ricky Simone's cardio in a 5 rounder. It worries me so much that although I do believe he's been impressive and he's developed better as an overall fighter, not just a wrestler, not just going for takedowns, and I think he can definitely strike. But if he pulls one of those bone ass mistakes like Curtis Blaydes did, and like, hey, let's try to strike a little bit and not try to wrestle, because if I wrestle, I might get tired. If I get tired, you're gonna knock me out. He's on the floor like, what round is it? Like, you're done. It was 30 seconds into the fight. You're screwed. I'm worried about that. So me picking the dog, I'm just gonna take a shot on Song Yadong. If he's still plus money, I'll be placing a bet on him. But yeah, those have been my predictions for UFC Fight Night Song versus Simon. Let me know what you think in the comments. Overall, what your opinions are on the fight card itself. What your favorite fight is, if you have a particular dog that you're interested in betting. Um, I might go a little light on this one just because, like, I don't want to fall into my old traps. I've gone to the point where I did well one card and I completely like go bust the next. And I feel like that's coming. And what's funny is that like I had a chance to essentially max bet he does not go the distance prop for the Pavlovich Blaydes fight. I even told dudes in the Discord, like, dude, I'm seriously considering betting like $800, $500 to win $50. And I know that's stupid. I know that's absolutely stupid, but I'm like, it's free money. Do it. I eventually got talked out of it. And by talked out of it, I mean, Bovada took the line away. So I was like, thank God. I would have won $50, but it was just like, oh, you fucking idiot. Don't ever do that. I get a little nuts sometimes. But yeah, as always, like Johnny from TigerBomb MMA, stay hard. Catch you the next fight.